Hi guys, welcome to my channel, or welcome back. I am doing a July monthly reading recap, but I have not filmed one of these videos since the end of April. I did July, I did February, and then I skipped March, and I did March and April in one video, and I've not done one since. So it's been 3 months. Yeah, I'm slacking. We don't need to talk about it. So essentially what today's video is gonna be is I am gonna go over all the books that I read in July. I'll talk about that a little bit more in depth, but I do want to just do like a small, quick recap of my May and June books as well. I have my reading journal with, where are they? May and June books. So I'm definitely gonna go over it and just at least tell you my rating. I'm probably not gonna go very much in depth of what the story is, maybe just like generally like what kind of vibe it is. Maybe some tropes, we'll see. But I want to do that first, because if I were to do every single one of these books, it would be like 33 books. And first of all, my voice can't do that. That's a lot of talking. And also that would be a very long video. So that being said, let's just get right on into this video. I'm gonna start with May. In May, I read 19 books. The breakdown of that is 10 romance, 2 fantasy, and 7 mystery/thrillers. I don't know what order these are in, so I'm just gonna go for it. I read Fourth Wing and Iron Flame. So I read both the books in the Empyrean series. Immediately, both of them are 5 stars. I loved Fourth Wing. I read it so fast. That's definitely more heavy on the romance than Iron Flame, but Iron Flame is like way more plot and action heavy, and I loved it. I ate it up. I honestly think Iron Flame was better. I know that's an unpopular opinion, but I think it's just because the people going into it were expecting more romance than there was. But I lived for what Iron Flame was. Next, we have Betting on You by Lynn Painter. This, I actually listened to the audiobook, but I was busy like doing stuff, so I kind of like didn't really process a lot of it. So I actually do want to go back and reread it, but in the moment, I gave it like a 4.25. It was really good. It's like a cute YA, kind of not enemies, like rivals to lovers. Then we had The Summer of Broken Rules by K.L. Walther. I gave this 4 stars. I loved the vibe. It was like on a camp, like island type setting, and it was just a romance. It was like super quick. I think I also listened to the audiobook. Definitely do recommend this book for like the summertime, I think. And then I read Check and Mate by Ali Hazelwood. Oh my God, I ate this book up. It was rivals to lovers. Obviously, it's about chess, but I literally do not know a single thing about chess. I don't care about chess. But this book was so good, and it was so much more than just chess. But it was like a perfect, short, sweet YA romance. Then I read the last books of the Natural series by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. So that includes Killer Instinct, All In, Bad Blood, and then 12, the novella. Killer Instinct, I gave a 4.5. I like this concept of the series basically being like that our main character and all of the other people in the Naturals program are natural profilers of some sort, or they have some other sort of ability. So someone's really good at math, someone's really good at telling if you're lying, that kind of thing. I just loved it. And this book, her writing is so fast, and this book was really good. And then All In, I actually gave 5 stars because it was just the best one in the series, in my opinion. Loved it. Bad Blood was next. I gave this one 4 stars. And then 12, the novella, I gave 3 stars. Honestly, not really necessary to read. Didn't love it, but it wasn't bad. It is just like an extension because it comes after the fact. Then I listened to Just the Nicest Couple by Mary Kubica. I gave this 4 stars, but if I'm being honest, I genuinely do not remember a single thing from this book. I could probably reread it and not know what's gonna happen. So do with that what you will, but I liked it at the time. And then Twisted Hate by Anna Huang. I gave this 3 stars. I'm not a huge fan of this series. I don't like the morally gray and like the blackmail subplots that were included. And that's a lot, like the morally gray is a lot of what the Twisted series romances are. So, and I didn't like love the characters. And then I listened to Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. This originally I gave it a 4 stars, but like just based on the ending alone, I think I'm like leaning more towards a 3. But the rest of the book was good. However, it did kind of remind me of Love in Other Words, and I enjoyed that book more. So Magnolia Park's The Long Way Home, 5 stars. I didn't super love the first book in the series, but then after Daisy Hates, I read Daisy Hates, and then I read Magnolia Park's Long Way Home, obviously in that order, and both of them are 5 stars. I'm a Daisy Hates girly, like through and through. I'm a Daisy Hates girly. I love Julian, I love Christian, I love Daisy, but within the Daisy Hates book, I did enjoy Magnolia better, and then I just enjoyed the storyline of Magnolia Park's The Long Way Home a lot more. Then I read You With a View by Jessica Joyce. This was a debut novel, and this was okay. I felt like it kind of was dragging on at some points, but it was cute. It was like a good like summer road trip kind of vibe. I have The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This book was also so good. If you like puzzles and clues and mysteries and like that kind of thing where you can try and solve it, like you will eat this up. It's a young adult book where the main character, I don't even remember her name, inherits this big fortune, and then there's puzzles to try and figure out like why she got it, because no one in the family even knows this girl and she doesn't know them. And then I read Same Time Next Summer by Annabelle Monaghan. This book was pretty good. I'm not a huge fan of music in books, and that was definitely included. Also, it did kind of feel like it just took me forever to read it. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't like my favorite thing. Speaking of music, in books, I have Maybe Someday by Colleen Hoover. I listened to this. I ended up enjoying this a lot more than I thought I would. There was more substance to it than other Colleen Hoover books, if you know what I'm talking about. And I enjoyed it. And the music, I didn't think was cringy. I did think the lyrics were, but I didn't like think the whole music plot line was like cringy, which I normally do. So like that's a plus. Last book. Oh boy. The last book I finally read was The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. And when I tell you, I hated this book so much. I tried to start this back in February. Got like 30 pages in, couldn't do it. Tried to pick it up like a month later. I think I read like 10 pages, couldn't keep going. So I tried the audiobook, but the one on Spotify, I hated the narrator. The voice was so bad. Finally, I did a hold on Libby, got that. I was like, I need to listen to this, because if I don't listen to this, like I'm never gonna finish it. I'm never gonna, like if I finished it like an hour before my hold ran out. And I hated it. I, first of all, found it really hard to get into. He did so much backstory that I literally did not care about. And then some things were predictable, but it also took I'm telling you right now, it's not a mystery or a thriller. It's a paranormal book. Paranormal mystery. Like, it is not a mystery thriller. And I'm like, I literally, just because of that, like I wasn't expecting that type of book. And that's what we got. And I was not a fan. I was simply not a fan. I owned the book. And then I like immediately went and I put it in the little free library in my neighborhood, because I actually I didn't want it here because I just did not like it. Now, going into June. In June, I read 15 books. We have 9 romance, 1 fantasy, and 5 mysteries. I read The Friend Zone by Abby Jimenez. I kid you not. Why is no one talking about this book? Is no one talking about this book of hers? It was literally so good. I cried. And I don't cry at books, but I cried. I gave it a 4.5. You gotta read it if you haven't. Then we have Nora Goes Off Script by Annabelle Monaghan. I listened to this. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Yeah, I gave it 4 stars. And then Heartless Hunter by Kristen Ciccarelli. I don't. I gave this a 3.75. I was honestly a bit disappointed. It was kind of giving Powerless, but not in a, like, it was just like a, oh, I've already read this. Like, this is like kind of predictable. I'm not like loving it. I read Summer Romance. Oh my God. I read Summer Romance by Annabelle Monaghan. Originally, I gave this like a 4.75, but it is simply a 5-star. I think about this book all the time. I loved it. I literally want to reread it immediately. There was so much depth to it, not just like a light and fluffy romance. Yeah, you have the romance and it was great, but like the depth, like everything else that it delved into was like just so good. And I felt like a lot of things that the main character was going through, I like personally could relate to. So I think that kind of helped like with my connection to the story and like the main characters. Then we have The Teacher by Frida McFadden. I started listening to this audiobook. I got like 25% of the way in, didn't love it. And then I picked it back up down the road, finished the audiobook. It was okay. It was kind of slow. It was very long, especially for a Frida McFadden book. And I didn't love, it made me very uncomfortable. If you read it, you probably understand why, but it made me so uncomfortable. But the ending, like the epilogue, like actually was like crazy. Like I just did not see that one coming. So I thought that was kind of crazy, and that's why it got like a 4-star. Then I have The Villa by Rachel Hawkins. I listened to this audiobook. It was good. Nothing special. It was 3 stars. You kind of could see where it was going. So there wasn't anything like particularly surprising. It was just kind of like more like eerie vibes or like kind of puzzling things. This Summer Will Be Different by Carly Fortune, her new book. I read this pretty quick. I did enjoy it, but I ultimately did give it 3 stars just because there's the main character. I forget her name. Then it's her best friend and then her best friend's brother. The main character and the brother like met 5 years ago or whatever, how many years ago. They had a night together, and then they realized the next morning that it's like her best friend, his sister's best friend, and like her best friend's brother. I just don't understand it because first of all, his name is not common enough. It's not common enough. And I think it's really, and like, yeah, the family calls him by a nickname, but there's no way you're best friends with someone and like you live with them and don't know her brother's like real name. Also, the friend made a rule of like no falling in love with my brother, which once you get into it more, you understand why. But like I kind of hated it from the beginning because I'm like, okay, just that little bit of backstory we could have had closer to the beginning and we would have understood why it was so important, because you don't find that out until way later. And then it's like, okay, well, like now it makes sense, but like what, that we could have had that information before. The Bromance Book Club by Lissa K. Adams. I gave this 3 stars. It was good. It was unique. I would recommend it to some people. It wasn't like my favorite of all time, but it wasn't a bad book. Hopeless by Elsie Silver. So I finished the Chestnut Spring series. I gave this 4 stars. I did feel like I wasn't as interested in the beginning because I didn't really care for Beau as much. Like we didn't get much of him. It ended up being a lot better than I thought. There was some fake marriage. It was just like, Elsie just kills it. She can do no wrong. And we have The Bodyguard by Catherine Center. I gave this 4.5. It was really good. I listened to this on audiobook as well, and it was very good. The Bride by Allie Hazelwood. I gave this 4 stars. This one thoroughly surprised me, and I was like so glad that it did. I went into it not knowing if I was gonna like it, but I wanted to give it a try. And then it's just something about Allie Hazelwood's writing. It feels like I'm literally, her and Abby Jimenez, it feels like I'm not even reading. It literally feels like I'm not reading anything and I'm just like absorbing a story. I read The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. I gave this 3 stars. It was okay. Nothing special. Then I did listen to The Reappearance of Rachel Price. I did enjoy this book. I gave it a 4-star, but it did feel way too long. Okay, then I finished the Good Girl's Guide to Murder series trilogy. So I listened to Good Girl, Bad Blood. I gave this 4 stars. I thought I liked it better than the first one. And then I listened to As Good as Dead, which I gave 2 stars, and that's being generous. I hated the ending. I hated that was the wrap up. I hated how like the main character Pip was just like completely different. Like it was just like so uncharacteristic of her for all of whatever she was doing. Okay, now on to the actual reading wrap up for July. So I read 9 books this month. I did kind of slow down a bit. I was really busy with traveling, family, kind of that stuff. But I read 9 books. 4 of them were romance, 5 of them were fantasy. I'm kind of back in my fantasy era, which is surprising because it's summer. Didn't see that coming. First book I read, I actually don't have because I'm letting my friend borrow it. I've reread Powerless by Lauren Roberts. Still a 5-star, still amazing. The banter, love. And I loved it even more the second time around. I reread it to get ready for Reckless. I got this and I do love the cover. I love like the gold on this one, but this story itself very much disappointed me because I mean, Lauren Roberts even said it herself, like it took a step back. It was like a slower pace, like kind of a different storyline. And then the action's gonna pick up again in the 3rd book when it's released, but it was a lot of cat and mouse, so it kind of got really repetitive. The ending, I was shocked about. I feel like I should not have been shocked about this at all. I just didn't see it coming because I was just confused about some of the characters involved. Like I was just like very not sure about like the role of certain characters, so I think that's where it got me kind of overthinking. There was still some good banter, still some cute scenes. Like I still love her writing. It honestly is like, for a fantasy too, I mean, it's like a YA fantasy, so it's not super complicated, but for a fantasy, the style of writing is super fast to read. But I think I gave this like a 3.5. Then I read The Love Wager by Lynn Painter. I don't even know what this is. Oh, it's like 2 people meet in real life. Ellie and Jack meet at his sister's wedding, and then they have a one-night stand, and then they see each other on a dating app and they start messaging, and they kind of make a little wager of who can find love first, and they'll go on all these dates at the same time, and then they're gonna meet up after and like debrief and whatnot about their dates. And it kind of obviously gets to a point where they start to have feelings for each other. I think there's a fake dating trope. I honestly kind of forget. I love, like, Lynn Painter's books I'm always gonna buy. I think I'm always gonna enjoy them, but I do prefer her YA books. I don't know if I cared that much about them, so maybe that's where my downfall was. I'm not sure, but I would still recommend it. You literally can't go wrong, but it just wasn't my favorite one of hers. Then I read The 7-Year Slip. Finally, I have been meaning to read this for like months. What is her name? Oh, I literally do not ever ask me a character's name, like the main character's names. The main character, Clementine, her aunt had an apartment, and then her aunt passed away, and now she's moving into it. And essentially, when she goes into the apartment, sometimes it'll be 7 years in the past, and she meets this guy. I don't know. I don't remember his name. She meets a guy that's in her apartment, says he's staying there for the summer, and they kind of form a bond, like a connection, and there's this whole magical realism, like time thing that they have to deal with, and you just kind of follow that. This was my first Ashley Poston book. I really did like it. I just don't understand the hype as much as it is hyped, but it was still a good book. It was like it was a cute romance. The vibes were good. Also, it took place during the summer, so I feel like me reading it in the summer was just perfect. Next, I finally read Not in Love. I actually started this back in May. No, we are in August. So back in June, like towards the end of June, I got like 40 pages in or something, and then I just got more interested in reading some other books. Obviously, it's by Ellie Hazelwood. This book, it even says it. She puts like a a little note. It starts out as more of a physical relationship. There are some like sensitive topics and they're not good with like their emotions. So that's kind of why they're focusing on the physical relationship. But I didn't super feel connected to the main character, Rue. However, what is his name? Eli. I did really enjoy Eli. And in them together, it makes sense. And like he really understands her and is like very patient with her and all this kind of stuff. And they're very good at communicating, but I just didn't like love Rue as a character, which I think that kind of maybe was intentional. I'm not sure, but I still enjoyed it. I think I gave it a 3.5. Then this is the big ticket. I picked this back up, Queen of Shadows by Sarah J. Maas. This is the 5th book in the Throne of Glass series, and I put it down about around page 120. I was just like really bored, and I just don't think I was in the mood for it back in March. It's literally, or April maybe? It might have been April. March or April. It's been a while since I picked this up, but I just wasn't in the mood. And then one day I pick it up, and I was so glad that I did wait until I was ready to pick this up, because if I had forced myself to read this when I wasn't interested or when I wasn't feeling it, like I would have been doing myself and the book a disservice, especially because I hear that like a lot of people love this one. It's like their favorite in the series. So I am glad I waited. It ended up being a 5-star. And this happens to me all the time. Whenever I put a book down because I'm like not feeling it, or I'm like, I need something to pick up, or I need this to happen. Once I put it down for a while and then come pick it back up, it happens immediately. And I'm like, okay, if that could have happened 20 pages ago, I wouldn't have stopped. But also I think I read it at the right time for me and I enjoyed it. I've read a lot of Ali Hazelwood lately. The Love Hypothesis. Did I give this a 5? I honestly might have given this a 5-star or 4.75. It was close. Either way, this book was so good. I love Adam is a new book boyfriend that I'm obsessed with. Just everything about him. And it is fake dating, which I also love that trope. This or Check and Mate might be my favorite Ali Hazelwood book. But I also did love Theoretically. But essentially they're like biologists. She's a grad student. He is not a professor. Oh yeah, he is a professor. And they strike up this whole fake dating thing. That's the story, and it's so good. Well, the last 2 books I read are Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn. This is the tandem read, and I did read it as a tandem read. I also made these bookmarks. Please, so freaking cute. And they were very helpful. Very helpful, because I didn't have to keep like looking at my phone or write it down. It was like a digital PDF that I downloaded from Etsy, but then I printed it and I laminated them, whatever. Both of these 5-star. I don't know why people think that this one is kind of slower and boring, because when you do the tandem read, it's like they're both so good. And a lot more action happens in this one, but this one was still so good for other reasons. Yeah, but I literally finished this 2 days ago, so on the 31st. Now I have to read Kingdom of Ash. And again, I'm so glad that I like picked up Queen of Shadows when I did, because then I was very much in the mood to read these, and I literally read the tandem in like less than a week. That is all I have for today's reading wrap up. I know it was long. I tried to keep May and June brief, but there were a lot more books to talk about, so we'll see how long this video ends up being. Definitely a lot shorter than if I went through every single book. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm going to try and be better. I'm going to try and do one of these at the end of each month. My life's been a little hectic lately, so bear with me. I will see you guys in the next video. Definitely comment down below what your favorite book was from July. I honestly can't decide. I don't even want to include Throne of Glass series, because it's like obviously one of those, but like the Love Hypothesis was so good. And Powerless. I can't decide. But you guys let me know what you think. If you read any of these books, what your thoughts are. Like the video and subscribe. I will talk to you guys in the next video. Bye.